Y'all knew I was on mute all this time. That's why I don't like none of y'all. Y'all messed up the show already, right? Tag it. Well, as I was saying, I thought I said a lot. Welcome to our first podcast at the Sugar Shack. The name may change, but today it's the Sugar Shack. Today's topic will be about the substitute teacher who got in the brawl with the student. Y'all may have seen it already, but we're going to dig in a little bit deeper. We want to know, what is the problem? Is it teachers need more? Does teachers need more training? Do these children need more training? Could that have been avoided? Like, what can have happened? And then it's crazy finding this. You find a lot more of these teachers and students getting into it. But we are going to turn, after we watch the video, we're going to turn this over to our special guest tonight, our co-host, our regular co-host, but our special guest on the show will be King Cap. I am the culture. How are you, my brother? How you doing?
What's up, Suge? What's up, gang? Hopefully some more people trickle in as this video plays. We're gonna do it a little different, like Suge said. It's gonna be the first podcast, so it's not gonna be an open panel, open discussion type thing. We're gonna go through the video, and then at the end, I'll have some remarks and some comments.
Okay, let's go.
You wanted to hear from the teacher? Here I am. First of all, I want to say I love everybody. Thank you for your support. Yes, we've been getting threats and some negativity. That's just, it doesn't really matter. At that point, everybody does have an opinion. But I've been working with young people for 22 years. I started out in high school tutoring young folks in elementary. I taught dance, cheerleading, drill team. I taught Sunday school, praise and worship dance. Like I said, Sunday school, Sunday church, and found myself, I used to work as an administrator in the office or office support in the school district, and then I'm here as a substitute teacher. Thank you. You can hear me or can't hear me? Can or can't? Okay. So I just wanted to say, though, in all my 22 years, never have I ever experienced what I experienced this Monday.
Hey, I'm Kayla, and I'm one of the AI voices from Revoicer. I can be sad, and you'll think that I might break down and cry any moment. Excited about.
I've never been attacked by young folks. I love young people. This is why I work with them. I have a heart for them. That young lady attacked me, and she went for blood. She took out an inch of my hairline from here all the way to 2 inches back here. And y'all know Black women have hair issues, okay? I don't understand what it is with Black on Black crime. Black women hating on each other. I never did that. I always show love to my sister, especially to the kids. The kids are our future. So that fake page that was up, that somebody was like, F the kids and F that job, it was never F the kids, because the kids are our future. But I'm going to tell you this. She was in my space. She was behind the desk. I followed protocol for whoever said that I touched her first. Okay? And I tried to call for an administrator. or somebody at the office 3 times. But never in my 22 years working with young people have I ever been attacked. But let me tell you something. Within a month, there has been a teacher that was knocked unconscious with her head kicked in. Twice, 2 teachers. Another teacher got a gun pulled on her. And like I say, I love kids. My husband said, yeah, I spend my own money. I reward good behavior. I let the kids know that they have something to offer the world. They do. Each and every one of them is special in their own way. And the world is waiting for them to share their gifts. But as for me, as much as I love the kids, I cannot put my life or my livelihood in danger anymore. I will be saying goodbye to this profession. I went to school 3 times for real estate. Oh, yes, I'm being faced with charges as well behind this. And so if I get a charge on my record, there goes my career again, period. I have 4 children. My children would never, you best believe, I raised my kids right. They would never disrespect authority of any kind or an adult. They know to come to me. OnlyFans is out of the question. I am not that kind of lady. I grew up in church. Okay? But I just wanted to say, I still love the kids. They are our future. But at this point, I cannot put my children's livelihood, hey niece, nor my family in this situation to where I'm not getting paid. And it may be possible that what I went to pay my money for to go to school for 3 times. Yeah, I did not think that I would be I would not be working the last 4 weeks of school. But anyway, I will have, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I will have more details on what happened. I appreciate everybody that's given their donations to my husband's GoFundMe account. That's awesome. And all the phone calls, thank you for calling and praying with us. And so many people are leaving the profession. And I'm going to have to wash my hands behind this as well. I can't do this. And I'm not here to talk about what was under my clothes. Okay, that is not even up for discussion. But you're hearing it from the teacher right now. I do love kids. Please raise your children. Spend time with them. Love on them. Teach them right and wrong. Teach them to respect authority. If you want to keep a job or go into these professional places, you have to follow protocol.
He can live without that phone.
That's right. You can't be on your phone at a job, period. You know?
Without that phone, like we just your phone up sometimes.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. I appreciate the prayers because prayer does work. God is real. I've seen him acting on my behalf in my life. And I believe that he will continue to act on my behalf. And it's a shame that some of y'all's head is in the wrong place right now with your dirty minds. Y'all supposed to be grown-ups, and you got a mind of a child. Grown people a grown-up, a child in a grown-up's body. It's a shame. It's a shame. You've never seen women get in an altercation. There's always breasts or something flying. You know, let's be real we got to pray for our children and we got to raise our children. It still takes a village. Trust me, if I see a child doing something something that they shouldn't be doing, and if you got love behind it, they respect that. One time I saw some kids lighting a firecracker under somebody else's car. And I was like, babies, now y'all know y'all should not be doing that. Your mama ain't gonna be able to pay for somebody else's car. They didn't know me from Adam or Eve on the street. But you know what? They knew that I was coming from love. I come from love when I walk in the building every day. And react with respect. You have to give respect to earn it. And trust me, I respect them babies. I respect all them children. I respect every person. They have feelings, and their feelings are valid. But I do not tolerate disrespect. Not from my, excuse me. I don't tolerate mine disrespect from anyone. And yes, I walk away. But as you see, I was backed in a corner, trying to call for help. And so this is not a reflection. I mean, I'm telling you, the people that work in this industry really do have a heart for young folks. I can tell you that right now. Everybody that I work with love and respect y'all's children when y'all send them to school. Your kids need to come to school to learn. Tell your kids to put their phones away. You come to school to get an education because they want that bag. I tell them all the time, that's all they're concerned about. They want that bag. The better your grades, the bigger your bag. And it's in this.
Now, I don't know if y'all have seen the altercation with the student right there and the teacher, but y'all gonna have to go yourselves and look for that, because I'm not gonna put that on the page. Even though they blur stuff out, they're not supposed to show fighting and stuff on, on the YouTube. But y'all can definitely go look it up and see the fight. The teacher, the claim from what I saw, the girl put her hands on the teacher. The next you know, that girl was on the floor. That girl was on the floor. She will not put her hands on any more teachers anytime soon. But like I said, we're going to dig deeper into this. So let's let our special guest, King Cav. I am the culture.
Yeah. I had to change it up a little bit. Y'all can call me King Culture or Big Culture, whatever, but that's neither here nor there right now. I'll tell y'all about that later. But I want to look at this from a little bit different angle. First of all, Miss Steele, who was the substitute teacher, she's been in this field for 20 years, over 20 years, 22 years. And if you don't think that it's a loss for our kids to lose a Black woman who has been an educator for over 20 years, that's part of the problem. And not only that, because of this incident, she faces criminal charges. And you heard her say she had went and gotten her real estate license. Well, that would be in jeopardy. She would not be able to practice real estate if she has a felony conviction on her record, which is a possibility from this incident. Now, I want to touch on, we all know the obvious, but I want to touch on a couple things that might not be the number one topic of conversation when people talk about this incident and incidents like this. First of all, if anybody pays attention to the news and we see these mass shootings in school, and the Republicans, who are, by the way, in charge right now, except for the White House, they control the majority. So they are the ones who can pass laws or deny laws that come on the floor to be voted on. One of their solutions to stop mass shootings in schools is to arm teachers. Now, just imagine for a second that this was a 60-year-old white man and he was armed. This situation could have went a totally different way. If the student had been a male as opposed to a female student, this situation could have went a totally different way. When you have children that fight teachers, then you have children that will fight the police. And I guess the point that I'm making is that when you have children that don't have enough self-control to not strike adults who are in a position of authority, when it's not a life or death situation, or when that student is not being physically accosted and defending themselves, you know, you have a child that may possibly react to the police that way. And then how do you think that situation is going to turn out? Not only that, let's back up to the family dynamic. When you have children that will fight a teacher or fight a police officer, they'll fight you too eventually. I've seen that personally. I have no idea what type of home this young lady was brought up in. So I'm not going to try to cast any aspersions on her mother or her father or whatever type of family dynamic she came up in. All I'm saying is we're talking about real life situations and the consequences and results. If this child did that in any other situation, it could have been more than her just being pinned down to the ground and this teacher losing her job and having to leave the profession because she doesn't feel safe. You know, we've gotten to a point where our educators don't feel safe because of the level of violence that kids are allowed to perpetrate against them. We've seen these videos. They're all over social media. Most of the time, the student will get the better of the teacher because teachers are older. Teachers are in their 30s and 40s and 50s. They're not coming to school prepared to fight. You know, and you'll have teachers that'll get severely hurt. A teacher got knocked out unconscious the day after this situation happened. And that's another thing that arises from these situations. You get a lot of copycat crimes. You get a lot of other kids that say, hey, you know, I'm going more viral than she went. We have kids in our community that run around playing the knockout game. And for those who don't know, kids will literally run up to elderly people and punch them in the attempt to knock them unconscious and videotape it. They don't do this in the Asian American community. They don't do this in the Middle Eastern community. They don't do this in any other community except ours. Except ours. That's a reality that we have to deal with. Now, again, you can say, well, you know, the teacher took her phone. Let's touch on that too. And she spoke on it briefly in a video. Why haven't we taught our children to say, hey, if your teacher takes your phone, even if she was wrong, here's how you handle that situation. You wait till after class is over and get the phone back. If she doesn't return the phone, you go to the office and you let somebody in the administration know, and you call me and I'll deal with it with the adults. But never is an option that you go up and put your hands on a teacher in an attempt to take back a cell phone. What's going to happen if she goes to work and they tell her she can't be on her phone at work? And I've seen this too. At one point, we were so short-staffed, we had to hire a temp service, and they brought in temp service. Do you know almost every one of the temps got fired for being on their phone after we told them they couldn't have their phone out on the floor? And it was for safety reasons. And it was for other reasons also, because it interfered with the electronic traffic in the building. But they couldn't stay off their phones. They obsessed with their devices and gadgets. That's another thing. This child was ready to draw blood because of a cell phone, because of an electronic device. We have to teach our kids restraint. We have to teach our kids to prioritize things in their lives. Electronic instruments are way, 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 way down on the priority list, or they should be. But we see where they are in our kids' lives. And that's partly our fault. Because we provide them with the things that ultimately end up being their downfall. These kids are getting trafficked off social media. They're getting robbed off social media. They're getting lured into cults off of social media. There's no way we can control the flow of information on social media, but what we have to do is we have to be more vigilant and we have to be more accountable for our own kids. Get y'all kids, man. I done seen kids attack bus drivers, the city bus driver, the train conductor. I'm going to work. Group of about 10 kids just rushed. He hadn't said anything to him. Not one word. They walked right on. As soon as the door shut, they ran into he just had a little half glass partition that kind of boxed in his little control area. They grabbed it, opened it, rushed in, and started assaulting the man for no reason. And everybody stood there except luckily me and another lady. It took a woman to help me intervene to stop these kids from assaulting the train conductor. I'm going to work. And we see more and more incidents like this. It is not because of white people. It's because of us. It's the type of things that we accept. It's the kind of things that we normalize. It's the kind of things that our kids see at home. So let's talk about that aspect. We all know that 85% of people who are in relationships at all at this time are in toxic relationships. 85%. That's 8 out of 10 couples that are in a toxic relationship. I know that's true in my life. Other people that I know, married or just cohabitating, been together for years and they live together. That's just what it is, and it's acceptable. The level of toxicity that is accepted in our relationships is a direct reflection on how our kids act out in society. We're setting our kids up for failure. We're setting our kids up to get their lives taken by the police, to be put out of school and maybe not afforded the education that they're going to need to survive in the real world. How do you send this young lady out on a job? If somebody make her mad at work, she might have a little job at McDonald's. What if one of the customers gets smart? What's she going to do? Throw a drink out the window? Cuss them out? We got to get our kids, yo. We got to be responsible for our kids, and we got to hold them accountable, because that's what we're not doing. Now, I heard the teacher come out. I don't know, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen her mother or her father, the student's parent, come out and issue any kind of statement. They shouldn't even issue a statement, in my opinion. They should issue an apology to that teacher. Because we don't have to get into the debate about who you think was more right or more wrong. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. We're just talking about facts. We're just talking about what happened. We're talking about the incident itself. We can get into all the little nuances of it, but the bottom line is, even when this young lady was, the teacher, Miss Steele, was explaining, her side of things and where she was coming from. I don't know if anybody caught it, but she must have been looking at the chat and people were making lewd comments. They were asking her about, we saw the video, her dress came up. They wanted to comment about that. And then they started making other comments. And she had to say, You know, grow up. Why are you guys being so childish? This is a serious matter. But that was a very poignant moment because that's the thing. How can we tell our kids to act mature and we got adults 40, 50, 60 years old that act like children still right now? And then you're trying to tell a teenager, you can't, I don't trust you to raise a teenager. If you online arguing with folks, what do you think your teenage child or grandchild is doing? Most of the people that's up here listening and that's in this sector, they have grandchildren that age. A lot of them have children that age. But if they hear you on social media arguing with people 24/7, what do you think they're going to do? What kind of attitude you think they're going to have? How do you think they're going to communicate with other people? We got to be careful of the energy that's around us, the things that we take in, because what we take in, we reflect out to the world. I also, like I said, I want to make a real clear point. We know in our community that most of the men are absent. That's just a fact. I don't care about no excuses, reasons, whatever. You got a bad baby mama, they live out of town, yada, yada, yada. So now I'm addressing the women. The brunt of raising kids, unfortunately, falls on your shoulders because men have dropped the ball and there are very few men in our community today. And it's sad as hell to say, but that's a fact. That's a fact. So that being said, women, it is incumbent upon you to not pacify, baby your kids, to try to overcompensate. If they don't have a father in their life, there is nothing that you can do about that. You have to ensure that your child has what they need and prepared with to go out into the world. This young lady does not have the skills to be out in the world. She will crash and burn. Just based on that, I don't have to know anything. Y'all can say, oh, well, listen, anything can happen at any time. But I'm saying to you that I don't have to know the whole story. I raise children. I have grandchildren. I know the behavior and the characteristics of children. And you have to understand that your children are not going to act the way around you, the way that they act around other people who they don't know, who are not their mothers. Stop thinking your child is an angel, because you weren't an angel. Your brothers and sisters weren't angels, and neither are your children. Hold them responsible. Make them accountable for the things that they do. My first thing that I would have said to my daughter, if that was my daughter, the first thing that I would have said to her was, if that teacher, God forbid, would have done something, you fell back and hit your head and not survived, you couldn't talk on your cell phone anyway. If that was the police and you fought for your cell phone and lost your life, you can't sue nobody. Dead men don't sue. You get nothing out of that. You have to prioritize things in your life and stop running around acting like you living in a TV movie or some kind of YouTube series. This is real life. And I'm telling you, the Republicans are talking about arming teachers, having armed security in schools. If that young lady would have done that in the state of Texas or in other states that are very liberal with gun laws and stand your ground laws, that young lady could have very easily lost her life, and the teacher may not have faced a single charge. You have to think about it on that level. I don't care if the teacher was wrong for taking. That's another thing. There is a rule in that school that you cannot have your cell phones in class. So I don't care how right you try to make this student. She was breaking the rules. She violated an adult who had proper authority, and she escalated that to a physical confrontation. So before we start trying to critique anything that the teacher did, this girl was wrong 3 times. That's what we have to address. Our own kids, our own self, our own village. We always talking about a village, but we steady making excuses for these kids. You're going to set yourself up to send your kid out here, and they're going to run into the wrong person on the right day, and it's going to be over with. And it's going to be over with. And you can do all the crying and marching and protesting you want to do. When it's over, it's over. Ask anybody who don't have a loved one no more. If we keep making excuses for these kids, if we fail to hold them accountable when they're obviously wrong, we're setting them up for failure. If we don't see that this is wrong, then that's more than half the problem. Because if you justify that to the student, then the next time a teacher pisses a student off, then that's what they're going to do. Because you get a lot of these little copycat crimes, because that's what immature teenagers do. What if she would have hurt that teacher? What if that teacher would have lost her life? What if she'd have fell backwards and hit her head instead of being able to control that student and hold her down until she got help? What if that teacher would have been an elderly white lady and she fell back and hit her head on the wall and lost her life? Then what? We'd have been outside protesting for the little girl, right? We'd have been calling it, oh, it's racist because she white, the teacher white, and she's black. That's what we do. We find the first excuse that we can find, and we'll beat an excuse to death. The Sugar Shack a little different, because over here we're going to have some real conversations, and we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations about things that need to be said that are never said. And that's why we still have the same problems that we have. Our kids are out of control, period. Our kids are out of control. What are we going to do about it?
Can I just say something?
Go ahead, Suge.
Now, another thing I notice a lot of kids do is, I mean, if y'all seen the video, well, you didn't take such and such phone, or why you didn't grab everything. They use like a lot of that to justify their wrongdoings.
It's called whataboutism.
Yeah. So,
oh, why you going after me? Nature Boy worse than me. Then Nature Boy tell you, why you coming after me? Pharaoh worse than me. That's what because our kids have learned to make excuses for their behavior. Why? Because we've taught them that. Because we make excuses for our behavior. They see what the adults do. They see the silly shit we do. They see the violence that we perpetrate against each other. That's what they do. They watch us and they imitate what we do. They're not overly violent for no reason. Turn on this YouTube. Go in the black sector. You're going to see all the violence, all the most evil, dirty, nastiest things you can see. And it's live streamed. How do you expect kids to grow up when they're bombarded with that? I know this firsthand because I work with kids every day. Suge works with kids, so we know this on a different level. I'm going to give you another example. Because of who I am, this situation turned out the best possible way. But say I had been somebody else, and I'm gonna give you the scenario. I'm at my nonprofit. I'm at my youth center. It's a kid comes in there. He's scared to death. Can barely talk. He's breathing hard. Like, what's going on, Anthony? He said, well, these guys down the block, every time I come down here, I jump off the bus, they kind of chase me down the street or whatever. I'm like, okay, let me see if I could talk to him. See if we can, figure it out. He's just coming over there, catching the bus, coming over to the center because we have activities. So we don't have any latchkey kids. But so now these other kids, as I'm saying that, they walk up in the center. Now, Sankofa used to be a church. So we inherited the building and rehabbed it, but it still looks like a church on the outside. And my point in saying that is these kids walked up in what looks like a church and fully armed, ready to do something to this kid. Now, I stay armed all the time. So now I got this little 14-year-old kid behind me, and I got 4 kids, probably 15 or 17 years old, standing in front of me armed, trying to get to this kid. What happens? You see what I'm saying? We have to get to a point where there's a clear right and wrong. There's no clear right and wrong in our community. We excuse too much shit. We allow too many things to be normalized in our community. That's why our kids feel like they can come up into a church or a community center armed, ready to take the life of a 14-year-old kid. I don't care what he did.
Oh, we got to touch on that too. Ooh, because that little young rapper that was 14 years old, gone. Because of the life that he's seen everybody else living.
Exactly. He wasn't born with that thought in his head. He's imitating what is in his surroundings, what he's around, what he gravitates toward, what he wants to be accepted in. You touched on it the other night, Suge. We as human beings, we feel the need to attach ourselves to groups because we want to feel acceptance. So if your kid is in an environment where all of the influences are negative and all of the people that they're around are violent, it's a good chance that they're going to become involved with that. That's just a fact. And that's why listen, and women, again, I'm going to get on y'all because, again, it's not fair. It's not right. But the reality is y'all are who's raising our kids because the men have totally and completely 100% dropped the ball. In general, as a whole. Of course, there's good fathers out there. I consider myself a good father, but I say we because I'm talking about men. So I hold other men responsible. So I put myself in the category. We have dropped the ball. Like, I mean, 150% we've dropped the ball on our kids, on our community, and on our women. We've dropped the ball all the way around. So you're raising these kids. That's what you have to remember. You're raising these kids. So if somebody's kid is out there shooting people, that's somebody's kid. They're responsible for that. They're responsible for them. I came from an era where if you was committing crime in my mother's house, my mother would have called them people. And like, listen, I can't control him. Ain't nobody getting ready to come to my house. If anybody would have came to my mother's house looking for me, I would have been out that day. If she'd have found drugs in our house, I would have been out that day. We have to get back to a point where something in this world means something to these kids. You can ask most of these kids, and the only thing that can tell you that means something to them is money. They won't tell you that family. They'll say that, third, fourth down the line, but it's always money first. All of these kids, and I'll ask them because it blows my mind how many kids, when I ask them, what's the most important thing to you in the world right now? Money? They don't even hesitate. I'm in my 50s. My first answer is family, first and foremost. When your family is more important than anything else, that guides the decisions that you make. It's plenty of times I want to slap somebody. It's plenty of times I want to cut somebody out. But because my family is my number one responsibility and priority, I know I can't slap nobody because if I go to jail, that directly affects my family. Financially as well as, physically, mentally, whatever. If I cuss people out at work every time I get mad, I won't have a job. I take care of my family. So that would definitely affect my family. But these kids, that's what they lack. That's what they lack. They don't have a family that means anything to them. They just had a mama. Their mama's important to them. They won't tell you they family. They'll say they mama because they don't have a family. Why? Because if the mother doesn't have a big family and the father's not in their life, they have no family. They don't feel anything to attach to. A lot of people have more people in their gang than they do in their family that they're cool with. They might have 20 dudes from their set from the hood, right? All of them love them. All of them are kill and die for them. But you can't, it's very few kids that can tell you 20 family members that they see and talk to and that they're close to. That's deep. A lot of kids.
And you also have to keep in mind that it's one teacher, 30-something students. Over, depending on where you live. One teacher and over 30 students. And also keep in mind of the area that the school is at.
If you have a school in a bad area, you're not going to get the best teachers. That's just a fact. If you work in a bad area, it's hard to hire people to work in that area. They're going through that at my job right now. New owners just bought the property and it's hard for them to find people that work there because it's in such a bad area. And you know what? It ain't no white people that live in that area. It's all black. So we have to understand what it is. And like Suge said, if you have one teacher per 30 some odd students, how much individual attention do you think your child is actually getting in class? That's why it's so easy for them to sit on their phones and get used to it and then get mad when the teacher tells them you ain't supposed to be on the phone. Well, you didn't take Joe's phone. She was probably trying to teach the class and couldn't pay attention to everybody being on their phone, but that's not even the point. The point is we have to teach our kids because we can't rely on one person to take care of 36 kids. I had to tell them that at the center, we had so many kids and we had so few male volunteers that we actually had to think about at one point not taking any more kids into the program to mentor. But I said, there's no way we can turn a kid away. But my partner said to me, but there's no way that each one of us can pay attention to 50 different kids at one time of different age ranges and different needs. You know, and so that's what we fought with a lot. And, you know, we put our time and our resources into a lot of things, man, but look at where our kids are right now. That's telling you where things is going. That tells you where things are going. When a child is obsessed with an electronic device, that means they lack things in other areas in their life. My mother would say when I was young, okay, listen, since your grades are suffering this week, because we got weekly reports every Friday, all the way up to high school. But I might have been slacking off that week. Okay, no more TV till I get that report next week and see that you can focus. So instead of watching TV, you know what I did? I read a book. Tell a kid to read a book now and see how they look at you. A what? Some kids have never, most kids have never owned a book in their life. Most kids have never read a book that wasn't required in school in their life. Most kids have never picked up a hardback or a paperback book in their life because they go to Kindle or one of these other ebook sources and just read right off the internet or just Google something and read the article. Because their minds we have not trained our kids' minds to do anything except focus and become obsessed with devices. Because devices are the quickest dopamine injection we can get. When people are depressed, they go on social media. When they're happy, they go on social media. When they're going through something in a relationship, they post it on social media. When they're traveling with their mate and they're living their best life, they post it on social media. And that's what our kids do. And that's why our kids have no connection to each other. And that's why these kind of incidents happen. And like I said, I don't want to be long-winded on the subject, but I just wanted to say, like, you know, in these kind of situations, I look at them different. Like I said, I'm not looking at who's right and wrong between the teacher and student. I already made that clear how I feel about the right and wrong in the situation. But again, let's try to look at things on a deeper level. When I first saw this, I thought to myself, man, if that was a different situation, that young lady could have lost her life. That's the thing to me that was the number one thing that jumped out to me. But we don't exhibit self-control because we on social media as 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old people doing the most ignorant, immature things, saying the most silly, immature, ignorant things we can think of to each other. That's what the adults do. What do you think the kids are going to do? What do you think they're going to do? And you can keep blaming everybody you want to. But I'm telling the women, you can't count on men right now. You can't count on, there's men that are good men that you can count on, but as a whole, as a community, y'all can't count on men. Y'all can't count on black men. We missing in action. We MIA. I don't know doing what or where at, but we just missing in action. And our community is going to fall apart if women don't step up and understand how serious it is, and our kids and what they do and what they see is going to shape how this world is going to be for us when we get old. We're older now, but we're going to get old. Somebody's going to have to care for us. These kids lack compassion and empathy and mercy. I would be scared to be in a nursing home with these kids right now having to take care of me. We have to be serious about what it is. Like, and I'm getting on women because, again, not that I'm absolving men of their responsibility. We have dropped the ball, period, all the way around, as fathers, as husbands, as boyfriends, as parents, as just citizens in a community. We failed. We're failing all the way around the board. So our only hope left is the women left that's strong enough to, you know, hold on and make it through, because I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna happen, and it looks bad because, you know, what is a mother gonna do with a 16-year-old son that's 6 foot tall, 185 pounds? Nothing. And so you're raising young men that have no respect. You shouldn't, you know, if you as a parent, and this is no knock on parents, but if you as a woman have never had a healthy relationship, how does your child know how to have a healthy relationship? If you and your significant other yell and scream and cuss each other out and turn up every time you get mad, how does your child learn conflict resolution? How do they learn how to not explode and turn up every time they get mad, every situation? Most women have never, ever in their whole entire life, 40 years old, 50 years old, have never been in one healthy relationship. Not one. That directly affects the children that you raise. It's not fair. It shouldn't be like that, but that's real life. And so when you accept these men who are not men and who don't pull the weight and deserve the title of being a man, when you have those type of men around your children, they grow up and see that. We always grew up saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. I hear kids now say, I want to hustle. They mama boyfriend hustle. They dad hustle. He's not really in their life. He just come around every now and then to show off his new car or, you know, show off some fresh gear, and he'll pull up and drop some money off and dip out. So his son want to hustle like his daddy. We got to show them something different, man. We've been saying that forever. When we going to do it? Stop bringing men around and accepting things because you made a deal with yourself. See, you can't criticize men for doing certain things when you allow the man in your life to do the same thing because you love him. Because he putting it down in the bed for whatever reason. It's bad when you can look at our community and, like I said, 8 out of every 10 relationships are toxic. It's abuse, verbal and physical. It's always infidelity. This is what our children are raised under. And I'm not knocking any woman. These are just the facts of life. Some of you are in your 40s and have raised children and have never shown your child a healthy relationship, ever. Ever. But we expect them to go out and have a functional, healthy relationship and have a strong mind and be confident. And this is what I see because I work with kids. That's why it means something to me. Because it's a kid that I know is a good kid, but I can't save them because the predominant influence in their life is their home life. And it's drugs, it's domestic violence, it's abuse, it's neglect. And I can't change that. I can only try to offer an alternative and show him a way that maybe this is how you can get out of that. But it's hard when that's what you take in the majority of the time, like we talked about the last couple of nights. You can tell how a person's life is because it reflects in their energy and their personality. There's no way that you can take negative things in all day long and be a positive person. That goes against human nature. If you're in a negative relationship, then you leave home, you hate your job, then you come back home and you tired and you upset and your kids are getting on your nerves. You can't go nowhere because the man is possessive and jealous, so you have no friends, so you have no outlet. This is what your kids see. So we just perpetuate generation after generation of unhealthy kids because the adults are unhealthy. And we have to understand that we're living negatively. We have to be able to, that's discernment again. If it doesn't feel good, it's because it's not right. If it doesn't sit right inside your spirit and your soul, it's because it's not right. None of us have the answers. None of us have an instruction manual to life. But when you go against your natural instinct and your natural feeling, you're going against God. That's the one thing God gave you. He didn't give nobody else no more than he gave you. You know what's right and wrong without anybody telling you, but it's what you choose to make a deal with yourself and accept. You can't expect no 14, 15-year-old girl to have a healthy perspective on relationships when her whole life, every boyfriend her mama had has been an abusive boyfriend and maybe inappropriate toward her. This is what these kids see. This is what these girls see. And then they go out in the world. Who is she going to make a good wife for? Or you got some young man who had no male guidance whatsoever his whole life. And then his mother tries to overcompensate and allows him to get away with murder. So he has no discipline. Now he goes out in the world. Which one of y'all daughters do y'all want to give to that young man? We're institutionalizing ourselves. We've gotten so normalized in our own bullshit that we don't even realize that a lot of things that should be instinctually wrong are wrong. It's wrong. Suge played a video earlier talking about Marcus Houston and his wife. Why is that even a debate? Why is that even an argument? Because some people are on the side of the people who are grooming and abusing children because it's become so normalized. It's people that we talk about in the entertainment industry that they knew for years and years have been doing inappropriate things and illegal things and immoral things to children, but they're still in the industry right now. Why? Because they got a big label. They put a big group out. They're a great manager. They make their clients the most money. So we make a deal with ourselves and we accept it. Women, stop doing that with these men in your life. Stop making deals and accepting shit that's not normal. A man that don't want to work is not normal. You should never have to argue with a man about getting a job. Period. Or paying bills. You shouldn't have to argue with a man about taking care of his child. Stop doing that. Stop doing that. There has not been one woman in the history of all the great women born there's not one that's been able to change a deadbeat father into a good, responsible father. It's either in you or it's not. Now that man can grow and become a better father as he grows and matures. But that ain't your job. Your job is to make sure that your child is well adjusted, whether he's there or not, because the sad fact and reality is that most black men ain't worth a damn these days. Ain't worth a damn. Ain't worth a damn. Can't change a light bulb. They don't have enough care and concern to help their kids, even if they can't stand their baby mama. They don't have enough maturity to be able to reconcile situations without violence or making excuses for everything that they can't do or don't want to do. That's the society we live in. That's the community that we have. That's what we left with. We didn't create it, but we contributed to it. We dropping the ball. We didn't drop the ball on the last two generations. And I'm talking about us right now. Us in the chat that's 40, 50 years old. We dropped the ball. We can see it in our kids and we can see it in our grandkids. So until we come to the realization that we dropped the ball, nothing's going to change. I'm tired of kids coming to me, talking to me about their most personal, intimate details about them being abused. When I ask them, did they tell their parents? They say no. They don't talk to their parent like that. What? That shit make me want to cry sometimes, yo. Like, for real. Like, I'm like, huh? You've been holding on to the fact that you've been abused for 3/4 of your life, and you've never told your parent, or you told your parent, and your parent basically blamed you or ignored you? Because that's a reality that our generation, my generation, we have to face that we were made aware of abuse and we ignored it. Because again, people made deals with themselves. Because she loved that man. She didn't want to lose him. And what she told her daughter was she didn't matter. It's nothing. I don't care how many people tell her that she matters, she's important, she's beautiful. Once her mother told her that she didn't matter because she wasn't going to lose her man, that child was destroyed forever, permanently. She was destroyed permanently. And I see this child every day. And it breaks my heart, y'all. Because I know no matter how much I do, I can't undo her mother, the most important person in her life, telling her that she wasn't going to lose her man behind her little fast ass. And it's sad, man. And it's sad. And it's not uncommon. That's not the exception. It's more the rule. I asked the question one day in the chat. If you feel comfortable, put a 1 in the chat if you have ever been violated, abused as a child, or know someone that has. Almost everybody in the chat put a 1. Almost everybody. Because those are the things. I'm sorry, go ahead, Suge.
No, we're gonna save that one for later. Y'all ain't got to put a 1 in there, because that's gonna be a whole
No. Don't, you ain't got to put a 1 in. I was just using that example because it even blew me away. Now, and these are women that are in their 40s and some in their 50s and have never been felt safe enough to reveal that information. And this is another thing I want to say too. Like I said, it's not the exception to the rule, it's more the rule. It's an exception if you find a young lady today, 20, 30, 40 years old, that has never been abused or never been violated or touched as a young girl. And that's sad, but that's also a reality that we can't get past. We can't get past that. But what I wanted to say about that too is you got to think about it in this way also. If a woman right now in her 30s, her 40s, her 50s was abused as a child, and she was never able to reconcile that with her mother, how does she possibly deal with that if it happens to her child? It's women right now that I know that some have never told their mother because of the shame and the guilt. And some of the ones that did tell their mother reacted like the young lady I just told you about. Either didn't believe them or blamed them for it.
No, that's not this topic, Alexis. That's another. That's Kev. We got to go back.
Yeah.
They're gonna want to go into that.
Okay, my bad. Well, let's get back to the.
But I do want to say one thing, because I noticed that I don't know how to say the name, but forgive me. Tech keeps putting out the city.
Tech is gone 888. Mm-hmm.
You know you guys said hers, right? You know you guys said first. And he keeps saying the city. You could be anywhere and have the same problems. Just because you're in a suburban doesn't make it any different. They just do it in their house. Unlike the city, they may do it outside, but the same thing goes on in mansions. Same thing going on in islands. We may not know that they're taking their kids to. Maybe they get the best help to help their kids. But what I would say is, if it's the city so much, then that's when you get together with the elders in your city and try to help out what's going on in your city. Because every time somebody runs for them to have a better life, yeah, it's good for you, but it's not good for the city or the ghetto no one is exempt. So if you could try to better, how about start by bettering where you live at?
Like, yeah, and I'll say also, a lot of kids that live in rural areas, their abuse is not reported because you're in a more isolated area. You may live in a town where the majority of people you're related to, and the other half of the town that you're not related to, everybody knows everybody and everybody knows everybody's business. So it's not just the city. There's actual studies that showed, children who live in more remote rural areas, they are abused at a higher rate because there's a lesser presence of law enforcement, out in the country, out in the sticks, people who live off the grid, things like that. And so, yeah, it doesn't matter where you at. It doesn't matter the zip code. Abuse is non-discriminatory when it comes to places, people, race, age, but to get back to the topic, right. I just kind of tied that together because, again, These are the kids that we're sending out into the world. And then you have a teacher, or you have a supervisor at a job that's dealing with all of these things that are going on in this child's life, and they have no idea, and this child explodes on them.
Yeah.
So we have, that's what I said. We have to start holding our kids accountable. That's the first thing that I did. I never went to the school. I never had to go to the school. I might have had to go to the school twice. And one of them was the time I told you my daughter was running her mouth and talking about people, and some girls wanted to beat her up. I said, either learn how to fight or close your mouth. It's easy. But the other time I had to go up for my son, the same thing. Is I don't go up there asking, oh, well, they stop telling your kids everybody's jealous of them or hating on them. I have grown women that come up to the school and will tell the administrators that they're hating on their 13-year-old daughter and they're jealous of her. And then, of course, you would say, well, why would they be jealous or hating on your child? Because she cute, and they hating on her because she pretty. Stop telling your kids that, because you have young women that grow up delusional, and you have young women growing up thinking that the world owes them something because they're cute.
No, but Gary, because we get ready to get to the end, so I'm just reading some of the questions. But Gary,
your kids have to live out in the world. They're not going to stay in the bubble of your home. So you got to realize how these kids are dealing with people. These people don't know what's going on in these kids' lives, nor should they have to. Your kids should be able to go out to show you our kids are out of control. Keep it real. How many times y'all been walking down the street? It might have just been you and your mate, or maybe you and your child, and you see a group of teenagers, whole group of them. They loud, wild, coming at you. Don't you kind of go, oh man, let me cross the street? Our community is the only community that does that. And we make fun of other communities. But if you look at the Asian community, their children are very disciplined. It's for a reason. It's intentional. You look at foreign students, foreign kids, for the most part, that have migrated to the United States. Their kids are more disciplined than 95% of the kids that were born and raised here in America. And it's intentional, because other communities talk to their children and tell their children, listen, if you go out here acting a fool, they got something for you. We got to stop this. We have an adult who is a mother of 4 children herself. Now she has to worry about how to take care of her family because this child didn't know how to control herself. It's not the teacher that couldn't control herself. It was the student. And you have people that will rally behind this student and tell her she's right. And so then how do you teach right from wrong? How do you teach right from wrong when you got people backing up bad behavior? That's what we're doing. We're backing up bad behavior too much. And so now our kids don't have a clear line of what's right and wrong. It's almost like it's what's right and wrong to your family. If your mom or your daddy lit and they turn up, they don't mind you being lit and turning up. But when you go out in real life, when you go to school, when you go on a job site, when you go, in a professional setting, that's not going to fly. But we're not teaching our kids that. We're teaching our kids to live by some of our messed up standards of normalcy. Like, it's people that think it's normal to argue with people on social media that are 40 and 50 years old. How are your kids going to know the difference in maturity and immaturity? We're so immature. Our generation, I don't know what it is right now. We are the most immature generation that I've been alive to witness. Our parents wasn't like that. My parents wasn't like that. Or none of the kids' parents I knew was like that I knew of or that we ever saw. Maybe they were like that, but they had more discretion. Like, I couldn't tell you which one of my friends' parents drank or not. I might be able to, because sometimes they would come over to our house. Was if they had gatherings or parties, they would come over to my parents' house, right? But I can't tell you what they drank or if they smoked or not, because they didn't do that in front of us. That was just how it was. But there's no lines drawn anymore. It became hip in like the late 90s to like start partying with your kids and call yourself quote unquote best friends with your kids. Man, my kids could never be best friends. I love them. I respect them. I take care of them, but we're not friends or best friends. Our relationship is totally different than my relationship with my best friend. We have to, the things that are important to kids are none of the things that matter in life. The bag is important. Jewelry is important. J's are important. You know, those kind of things are important to kids.
And then parents are scared to, I mean, it's sad that even if you do cut their phone off, they still can, get messages and stuff like that. But I wanted to say to Maderi, right? She was like, not me. I'm okay, no, not that part. Okay, I'm living back in the hood. See, that's because we got to put the neighbor back in front of the word hood because it's basically stand for neighborhood. We got to learn how to put the word neighbor back in the front of the word hood. And for the first time in many years, I'm so depressed because I see these youth and they have absolutely no. See, the thing is that, again, when you're living in what you want to call the hood, is more people and they are outside. But people who live in all these beautiful areas, the suburbs and mansions and stuff, they do the exact same thing. They're just as high as the kids that's in the hood. They're just as drunk as the kids in the hood. They're fighting just as much as the kids in the hood. I mean, you might feel safer because you don't see it.
Right.
You might feel like let me finish. Don't get me this one more sentence. You might feel safer because you don't see it, but a lot of them they got just as much police reports as because they're fighting somebody, right? That means they're fighting somebody else's kid. It's just that all that stuff it's a shush shush. So you could live in a suburb. That don't mean your child is safe. The same. They got just enough as they got the same bullies, and then they're more too all about feeling like you owe them something because my family have more money than your family or whatever. Now they're fighting, so they may be fighting for different reasons. But yeah, because you see it more on the outside in the hood, because they don't have like these big houses and stuff to sit in and do stuff. So they go outside. So you may think that you're safer, but believe me, they got locks on their doors too for a reason. Now, go ahead. I am.
And to piggyback what you said,
I am. Hold on. Go on ahead. I am the
culture.
Go ahead. I am culture.
So yo, just piggybacking what you said, you can live in the suburbs. You can live in a very, very, secluded, gated neighborhood in the suburbs. But a lot of those kids have cars at 16, so they'll drive to the hood. You understand what I'm saying? Because the parents not there. And I think it was Faith made the point a few minutes ago. And I was gonna say this too. It doesn't matter where you live anymore. You know why? Because it's not the parents who are raising the kids. It's the internet. Social media is raising kids. So even if you live in a good neighborhood, but your kid is constantly being bombarded and on sites where it's, gang members and they going back and forth, what good is it living in the suburbs? Because that trouble that they're seeking on the internet is going to find them, because kids drop locations now and all of this and that. And so you got to realize, and the thing too is,
and there's more overdose in them suburbs and stuff.
I was just getting ready to say, you be reading my mind, Suga. I was getting ready to say, speaking of the opioid addiction, excuse me. You know where most kids overdose? At home. Their parents aren't there. They overdose at home. And so it really doesn't matter where you live. It matters the access that you have to your kids. And you can't be with your kids 24 hours a day. So it's not your location. What's going to determine more than anything else whether your kids succeed succeeds or fails is how much information they're armed with. Because you got kids that grew up in the heart of South Central Los Angeles, but because they had the information from their parents that there were different outlets and they got involved in music or they got involved in sports. And so every kid that came from South Central is not a gangbanger. Now, did the majority of them, did 85% of them gangbang? Yes. But your child doesn't have to be in the 85%. And once your child and then their child and then their child is not in that 85%, it's not 85% anymore. And then that's how we drop the numbers. But a lot of people mistakenly do that. They think because they move out to, a nice area and it's an upscale area and it's clean and it doesn't matter, because if you're not there emotionally, if you're not there on a physical level, they're going to get into the same things as the kids in the hood. The same exact thing. It's going to be kids at your house. It's going to be drug use. It's going to be alcohol use. They're in cars. They're going to be spinning blocks all around town, all over the city. So the same things happen because we're focused on the wrong thing. And people think if they give their kids all of these things that their kids are going to be happy. How many of these rich millionaire kids are miserable and take their own lives and end up on drugs? Because it has nothing to do with that.
And they are the ones also that when they can't even get to it, they the ones start creating like the whipped cream thing. They just got nothing else to do but think of so many different ways.
And there's another thing too.
We ain't never sat home and say in the hood, well, let's smell this glue all daggone day. Like certain things that just ain't being. I'm not saying it's not being done in the hood.
No, I know what you're saying. They get creative with.
Right.
Idle mind.
Well, you know what?
We know what an idle mind is. It's a devil's workshop. But going back a little bit too, and think about this perspective. If a kid will attack a teacher because that teacher took his phone, how long do you think it is before that kid will attack you when you take their phone?
And then again,
I'm talking about you as the parent.
Yeah, but she must have thought that she was also like the biggest thing in the posse, because we know she thought that she was trying to prove a point, right?
Yeah.
We know for a fact she thought she was trying to prove a point. To say, yeah, I got her.
Yeah.
And one thing I keep telling kids all the time, I understand a lot of y'all are grown. Hey, M-Scope, a lot of people are grown because they are legal. But a lot of y'all, hey, Jackie Gates, a lot of y'all play adult games, which I don't understand, because we've been around the block a lot more than y'all. We got the experience. So whatever you trying to do, like we was told, we done did it already. So a lot of time they want to play these grown people games, and they end up being put right back in the place of a kid, because they think because they're legal now, I could do this or I could do that, or
right.
You got your kids, you got the kids, you got your friends thinking that you about that life. So now let me go try the teacher. And
exactly.
It's a shame that not even teachers, anybody that works with, that's just like when Kev be like, I had, like, even when he had the peace, I had to pray. You understand what I'm saying? Because people don't know how difficult it is when you're working with, and that's why I never go at risk. You will never even go at risk use. Every child is at risk. Or you'll never hear me say, kids know, because all of them is nobody's exempt. But you always have to pray for anybody who work with, like, who got 30 kids, 20 kids. It doesn't matter if you're getting paid or not getting paid. The point is you're dealing with so many different amount of kids, and then it could be a thing, yeah, Kev could protect himself. Yeah, he make it, but not of all them jumping on him. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So
That's what I said.
Always, right, like, and people forget about that, and you always thinking that, no, I cannot drop the link on the during the podcast, but tomorrow or maybe later, because we only got like 7 minutes left. So this will be done in 7 minutes. Then I might come back on. If y'all want to talk, we could talk, but not for the podcast. But if Kevin want to come back on, we'll come back on, and then we can chat it up and we can have an open panel. But for the podcast, there's no open panels because that's going straight to the podcast. Right now, I forgot what I was saying. So go ahead, Kev.
Well, I just want to say this. When we're thinking about these kids, think about you being the adult that's attacked by a kid, by a child. And of course, you don't want to hurt them, but you want to make it home too.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine yourself being in that teacher's position. That's why I said it's easy for us to take sides, and I try to remain neutral, but I will state my point of view. And I'll kind of break down why I think the way that I think. But it's going to be difficult for us to make any kind of advancement forward as a community until we get this problem under control. Because if people say that kids are our future, and they are, what does our future look like right now? Where are we headed if the youth doesn't respect authority? Then where are the guardrails? We're gonna really have to look at, on a deeper level, our role in what's going on right now, because we dropped the ball in a lot of ways, and it's showing. It's reflecting in our kids and our grandkids. It's reflecting right now. Those of us who in this stream or that's listening to us, we're a certain age. These are our kids that's out here acting a damn fool. And it's our grandkids that's out here acting a fool or suffering from the things that's going on, in society because of the way or lack thereof, the way that we raised them. A lot of people my age went away from the way our parents raised us because they wanted to be these new age hip parents, So, my oldest was born in 88. So it was like we rolling into the 90s. We thought we was hip. We gonna be these new parents. I'm not gonna whoop my kids. I'm not gonna yell at my kids. I'm gonna sit down and talk. That's what we used to say. And I'm laughing now. But that's not to say that we were abusive parents by any stretch of the imagination. But we thought because that was being pushed in society at that time. All these self-help books that came out about parenting and the new way to, have a relationship with your child, and and then that's when they started telling their kids, if your mommy or daddy yells at you or they make you upset, you can call Child Protective Services. That was that whole era. So we overcompensated, and it's showing right now. And that's just like I try to always tell my daughter with my grandbabies, listen, you can't make up for nothing that they're lacking. All you can do is make sure that they know right from wrong and they know how to carry themselves out here in society. I don't even have to tell my 4-year-old she doesn't throw temper tantrums out in public because she's not allowed to throw temper tantrums at home. She doesn't talk back to adults because she's not allowed to talk back to us. You understand? Not even my son, that's her uncle. Not even my goddaughter, who's only 15. That's somebody older than a 5-year-old. You understand? She understands that there's a pecking order, and she doesn't have a problem with it because kids respond to discipline. Kids rebel from a lack thereof. If you don't have any discipline in your kid's life, it'll show because they're going to be rebellious. When you have structure and discipline in a kid's life, they respond to that. They appreciate that. That's one of the ways that they know that you love them, that you give a damn. We're past the point of, we don't have to beat on our kids, but we have to have structure and discipline in our kids' life. And it got to be consequences, real consequences, like real life consequences. I would tell my kids all the time, I'm not going to lie for you. If you go out here and you break the law and they come get you, guess what? You're going to be in jail. That's it. That's all. None of my kids have ever been to jail because they knew and they understood the principle of what I was trying to say to them. Like, you're going to go out here and you're going to carry yourself like a human being. You're going to carry yourself respectfully. You're going to carry yourself like a young man or a young lady out here. I don't care what nobody else do. That's not an excuse for your behavior, because I'm going to hold you accountable for what you do and how you respond. You, oh, well, Pop, he got all in my face, man. And okay. So he got in your face. Did he have handcuffs on you? Did you have other people surround you? No, he was in my face trying to clown me in front of people. Well, why didn't you walk away? I wasn't finna look like no punk. Okay, so instead of, and this is a scenario I'm telling my son. So instead of looking like a punk, what you did was grab the dude, picked him up, and threw him off the bleachers, and he broke his arm. Now I got to pay his medical bill, and now you get kicked out of school, and hopefully you don't get expelled. You understand? So you can tell me, yeah, he was wrong for what he did, but you were wrong for how you respond, because I had to teach him consequences, because that's how the law is going to treat him. That's how society is going to treat him. It don't benefit my son or my daughters to baby them. I'm not going to curse my kids out and call them out their name. They're going to hear that enough out in public. I told my daughter all the time, you know, when they were growing up, you know that I love you and you know that I respect you. So that's a template. That's a blueprint. If a man talks to you other than a way that I talk to you, he doesn't respect you.
We got 1 minute, Kev. Then we're gonna come back on. Then we're gonna come back on. And then
all right. Well, just to wrap that up, get your kids, whoever that student is, her parents, get your child. She's out of control. And that's one of the symptoms of what's going on and what's wrong with us right now. So on that note, thank y'all for tuning in, listening to me run my mouth continuously. So now we're going to flip to the other side and we're going to do a little, I guess, question and answer, Suge.
Yeah, because, we're going to come right back. We're going to answer questions. We're going to do it the YouTube way. This is the podcast way. So don't think that we haven't heard you. Don't think Kev did not read any of your stuff. He will get back. He's going to show you how much he read it when he come back.
Yeah, we're going to just try to do the podcast a little different. Like sometimes it's pertinent stories and information out there, and we just want to get that information, and then we'll have to chop up later, you know?
Right. So, and then we just want. So I thank you guys for joining us on our first podcast.
Thank y'all for coming in the Sugar Shack.
Now,
this is the Sugar Shack, the podcast, and this the Sugar Shack. So when we say Sugar Shack, that's what we're talking about. So when we tell y'all to pull up at the Sugar Shack, we getting ready to have a podcast, and we're gonna build on something pertinent and relevant. So thank y'all again for coming.
Now we're gonna still do it the YouTube way when we come back. So just go back and really quick and come back. But I know I have to give my brother an applause, baby. You did the damn thing, and we thank you.
Thank you.
That's why he is the culture and the king at the same time. All right, guys, I'm coming right back. Thank you so much, my co-host. Now you got to come back as a co-host, right?
Yeah, Barry, come back on the other side. We're going to end this podcast.
We're going to come back on this side. You just got to put your other hat on. Now you're the co-host.
Okay. Yeah.
Put the other hat back on. Thank you guys to Kingster. Yes, and all that good stuff. Thank you, Coffee, Wine, and Water. Don't forget to pass this thing out. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to edit it. I don't know how long it's supposed to go. That's why I want to keep it short. So I'm out of here. Peace. I'll be right back on. Then we're going to chop it up.